It's fascinating to watch Alan direct because a lot of the time he was directing untrained actors. I mean, they were not people that had been through the drama schools in the conventional way. And he just had the ability to, I mean, almost to threaten the performance out of you.
It's for anyone that tries to undercut my rate. You make sure certain parties know that, Dugan. Right.
He'd get up really close to an actor and you know, just the way he did it was fascinating in drawing out a performance out of these actors. I mean, he really was. I mean, we've worked with all sorts of directors, and some directors you find spend actually very little time with the actors, which is really crazy. I mean, they ought to be, that's where they ought to spend their time, but they're much more concerned with the camera and the angles and, you know, all of that sort of thing. Alan was very much an actor's director, and I think that he did get wonderful performances out of the mainly young actors in Scum.
Now then, that's £8 altogether, right? I get 70 pence for equipping the screw, right? Your cut's 5 pence and mine's 15. That leaves 50 pence. 50 pence for a quid. I've got fucking overheads, haven't I? Haven't those bastards heard of inflation? You give them that 50 pence. And if they don't like it, they can see me. Screw.
There's really been two versions. The film was originally developed as a television film and was commissioned by the BBC, made for BBC One with Alan Clark directing and Roy Minton's script. When it was finished, the BBC banned it. Billy Cotton Jr., who was the controller of BBC One, said, "Over my dead body will this film be shown." That was the situation with the BBC version. At a certain period, the BBC's rights lapsed. The rights reverted back to Roy Minton, and we picked up the rights from Roy Minton.
Dirty cell, Archer. Governor's report.
I mean, it was interesting, when the film was released, there was really quite a lot of controversy about the film. I mean, some amongst the sort of professional crime people, you know, the Borstal services and juvenile offender people and those sort of people, and MPs. And some people felt the film should be banned. I seem to remember Mary Whitehouse tried to get it banned before it was shown on television later. And then other people felt that, I mean, I remember one MP said that, you know, every MP should be forced to see this movie. You know, other people felt that it had, you know, had a lot to say that would be very useful to be heard.
Looking at Scum now, how does it compare, in your mind, to the first version which you did for the BBC?
There was in the television version a homosexual relationship between Colin and another young, rather pretty inmate. Colin wasn't homosexual, it was distinctly established, but during the time in there, and that came out of research. I met a career criminal who'd been through Borstal and prison, and I met him about 6 times and got quite pally with him, and he told me about these cavortings very much on a public school basis, and how he would have a missus inside. He called him his missus just for the time inside, and the line was, "I'm no fucking pufter, but you're my missus." That I felt was rather sad because it extended Colin's character quite a lot for me. It made him vulnerable in an area where he couldn't afford to be vulnerable for an inch. It just showed up a flaw. In his own terms, he was flawed because he had this sexual need in those circumstances.
Come on, Coon, move it. Over there. You, in.
Get up straight, boy. Attention. Name and number. 4737 Carling, sir.
So this is the daddy. The hard case. Carlin, is it?
Is it? Yes, sir.
Don't look much to me, Carlin. You're the little toe rag who thumped the officer at Rowley. Fancy yourself, dear Carlin. Thumping officers, eh?
I will tell you.
It's an age-old story about a man the Ray Winston character coming into a corrupt institution and deciding eventually, after a lot of provocation, to take over control and to establish his authority. And that is a story, I think, that we've, it's one of the classic story cinema plots. Now, of course, Scum is on other levels. It's about lots of other things. It's about brutalization and the effect of being in an institution and all of those things. But I think the story really appeals to all of us. It appeals to an audience on that basic story level.
Now, Colin, move it. Go on over there. You, eat. Stand up straight, boy. Name and number.
Bastards. Bastards, bastards!
Looking at the film now, how do you think and where do you think it's dated most?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think it's really dated at all, because I think what helps to not make it dated is because it's set in a very isolated institution. We never actually see the outside world at all. I mean, there's a shot right at the beginning of the film where the Carlin character and a few other boys arrive in a van, and that's their entrance to this Borstal. And from then onwards, although we're outside a lot, we're never outside that institution. We never see another vehicle. We never see anything to tell us that it's 1979 or 1999. And so, in a way, we're lucky. From the point of view of those kind of external factors, I don't think the film's dated at all. And really, as we were saying earlier, I suspect that the film is not dated in terms of its ideas and its criticism of the Borstal system.
With a bad reputation. But I am prepared to take you as I find you. You'll have every chance to prove yourself on this wing, Carlin, and even to win back some of the time you've lost through your more unfortunate escapades. As housemaster, I run this wing. I want that firmly understood. Nobody rocks my boat. Do we understand each other?
Yes, sir.
Very well, then.
Just one thing, sir.
Yes?
I would like a single cell.
I think we can arrange that, Mr. Greaves.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
The Cagney character from the old Warner Brothers movies of the 40s. I mean, it's sheer leadership, personality, that he knew that he had established his authority not just over the kids, the teenagers, but really more importantly over the authorities. And it's very interesting actually to speculate what would have happened to Carlin in later life, where he would have ended up, whether he would have become simply a kind of East End gangster, or would he have done something more interesting in life?
Archer, in. Name and number to the governor.
4721 Archer, sir.
Ah, Archer. Still a vegetarian, are we?
Yes, sir.
And still barefoot, too.
Yes, sir.
Well, Archer, we have every respect for another man's sincere beliefs here. The individual is to be encouraged, and at no little trouble and expense, we have procured plastic boots for you. Do you appreciate that?
Yes, sir.
No objection to plastic, have we?
No, sir.
Good, then I hope the cooperation will be reciprocated.
I met a man who had had a similar experience to Archer. In fact, he should have been sent to prison, was put into Borstal, was a total misfit, and appeared to me to invent his own persona to survive in an environment which he loathed. He was an intelligent man, and he ended up, as I had Archer, I believe, doing his full time.
This one, certainly not from what's on offer here. Mr. Duke, I don't wish to underestimate your lifetime's work, but the punitive system does not work. I mean, my experience of Borstal convinces me that more criminal acts are imposed on prisoners than by criminals on society.
Convinces you, eh? Fancy half of that mob charging up and down your street.
Fancy your mother tackling that lot on the rampage? No, you bloody well don't. So what do you do about it, eh? Come on, what do you do about it?
I'd talk about it first, like we are.
Talks bullshit. You lock them up.
I'd also consider what happens to their guardians.
What are you, lad?
No, come on, I'm serious, Mr. Gill. Well, take yourself. For a weekly wage, you have been locking up men and boys for most of your working life, right? Now, hanging down your leg is a chain, your key chain, and the length of that chain indicates the time you have spent in the service. Right, you may not have been fortunate in terms of promotion, but the length of that chain gives you rank over other officers of similar rank only. But at the same time, it acts as a constant reminder that although you have spent your life in the prison service, you are still only a basic officer. Now, who gets the stick for that? Us. Who pays for that daily humiliation?
Stand up, Archie. And wipe that fucking grin off your face before I knock it off. Name and number.
4721 Archer, sir.
I give you my fucking coffee and you think you can sit there and have the piss out of me?
No, sir, I didn't. I never get the chance to express myself.
Then it's as well you don't, lad.
I was only concerned with men being stripped of their dignity, cons and screws. We aren't much different in here, you know.
You're on report for insolence.
Yes, sir.
Stand up straight.
I think it's really an example of Archer's massively superior intellect in comparison with the Screw. And I'm sure that in all of our institutions in this country, there are men there and boys that are on a sort of intellectual level far above the people who are set there to look after them. And that, of course, adds to the whole brutalizing effect that there is no outlet for, their intellectual aspirations.
Archie was in control, of course, provoked the Screw into retaliation, as he always did. But it was, I got a little tin opener in there and explored it a bit. And I thought we saw a bit of both sides of it.
And which scene in the film do you consider to be the most powerful?
I think probably the scene with the billiard balls, which was shot all in one take with a handheld camera in the days before there was Steadicam. And this scene started with Carlin sauntering over to the billiard table and in the middle of a game that somebody else was playing, taking a billiard ball and putting it in the sock.
Carry on.
There was a young assistant who was lying on the floor who handed him another sock, containing something less lethal than 2 billiard balls, and took the sock that contained the billiard balls out of his hand. So Ray, who had this wonderful walk, actually one of the best things about him as an actor, he's got this great walk. He was obviously walking along and his arms were by his side, so it was fairly easy, out of frame, to take away the billiard ball sock and replace it with another sock.
Leave it out, Striker, I ain't hurting you.
Don't you in my bleeding way.
It's all right, Ben.
What's up with you, weirdo? You want striking, do you? You might get left alone here, but I'll cut you a bleeding ribbons if I get any of your epoxy lip. Back, Ross!
On a dramatic level, I think it's the turning point of the film, and I think it's one of the most powerful scenes.
Forgetting for a moment its history, and you started now to make Scum in exactly the same way, do you think it would get through all the regulatory hoop before it got onto British television?
Well, interestingly, I don't think we would have a problem, and we didn't actually have a problem in 1979. Although the film stirred up quite a bit of controversy, we did have to make a few small cuts for television The film was originally bought by Channel 4 when Jeremy Isaacs was in charge of Channel 4. And we made a few cuts in the scene where Davis cuts his wrists, and it's a very bloody scene. I don't think we made any cuts in the scene where Davis is raped in the greenhouse, and that scene is uncut. Because there is such a strong story there, a dramatic story with a beginning, middle and end, and because of the humour, and because of the fact that it's not violence for violence sake, is really, we've never really had a major problem with the film.